Welcome to SysEng Quick. My name is John, and today I'll show you how to use Ansible facts. We've been disabling Ansible facts so far, but they're a great way to gather information about the platform you're connecting to. You may need to do this if you have to take specific actions based on the platform you're using. For instance, in the NeoFetch playbook we wrote in the last episode, we used apt to install NeoFetch. However, that only worked because we were on a Debian system. If we were using Red Hat or Arch, it wouldn't have worked. So how can we make this work for either of our systems? Well, I've made a new host called Fedora, which is a Red Hat host. It doesn't have apt, it has DNF. I've restructured the inventory a little bit. Now our top group is the LXC group because all of these hosts are LXC hosts, but not all of the LXC hosts are Debian or Red Hat. So let's go back to NeoFetch and let's just change gather facts to true. Let's see if the playbook still works. We'll do Ansible playbook -i inventory/ath.yaml, and then we'll supply our playbook of neofetch.yaml. Let's see if this still works. Yeah, everything looks good. We have a new task gathering facts, and NeoFetch was not installed because it was already installed. So the task returns OK rather than change this time. So since we have our new LXC group, which does both our hosts, what would happen if we changed our host from Debian to LXC? Let's try it out. We'll run the same playbook again, and we can see that gather facts worked fine, but installing NeoFetch did not. We can't run apt-get on a Fedora system. So what are we going to do instead? Well, since we gathered our facts, maybe we can use one of those facts to determine whether or not to run this task. If we want to run a task conditionally, we can add the when keyword to the task. So we want to run this if we have a Debian system. One of the facts we can use to determine this is called OS family. So let's say when Ansible facts is a dictionary, so the fact is OS_family, and when that equals Debian, we will run this task. And if our fact is not Debian, then we will not run this task. Let's see what happens now. We'll run the playbook again, and you can see we gather facts on both of our hosts. However, when we went to install NeoFetch, it said skipping fedora.local.technoplaza.net. We didn't run that task on the Fedora host because it's not a member of the Debian family. So how do we install this on a member of the Red Hat family? Well, let's go ahead and copy this task, and let's put it down here. And now let's change a few things. Let's say install NeoFetch on Debian, and here we'll say install NeoFetch on Red Hat. So when our Ansible facts OS family, we want to match Red Hat down here. And it does need to be capital R, capital H in Red Hat, and capital D in Debian. Now we can't use apt, we need to use DNF. There is a DNF module, so let's use that. I'm not actually sure if update cache is a thing, so let's just kill that for now, and we'll fix it if it doesn't work. Let's go ahead and save this, and let's try running the playbook again. We are gathering facts on both of our hosts, and this time, when we went to run the task install NeoFetch on Debian, we did skip it on the Fedora host, but we did run that task on the Debian host. And conversely, when we went to run the task on the Red Hat, we skipped the Debian server and only ran it on the Fedora server. Yeah, that appears to have worked just fine. Can we run NeoFetch on both of our hosts? Let's try that out. Let's do Ansible -i inventory/ath-m shell to run the shell module, and the argument is going to be NeoFetch. And I want to run it on all the hosts in the LXC group. So let's try that out. Yeah, there we go. We ran it on Debian and we ran it on Fedora. Everything working just fine now. we've been using SSH key authentication to access our servers. However, you can use passwords as well. Let's see how that might work. First, let's detach our SSH agent by running unset ssh_auth_sock. And now, if we SSH into our Fedora server, it should ask us for a password. And it does. And if I supply that password, we can log in. Can we do this with Ansible? Let's go ahead and run our Ansible command with neofetch against our Red Hat host. If we run this, we'll say that it's unreachable, permission denied. That's because we have to tell Ansible whenever we want to use password authentication. So let's run the same command, but supply the --ask--pass argument. There we go. It prompts me for a password. And once again, it is failed. If we need to use passwords, we must install the SSH pass program. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll do sudo apt update, and then we'll do sudo apt install SSH pass. Once we've done this, we should be able to use a password to authenticate into our servers. There we go. We'll ask for the password. And yes, now it's working. So it is possible to use password authentication, but make sure you install the SSH pass program on your control node. This is available on Debian and Red Hat servers under the same name. The OS family is one example of a fact you might want to use when working with Ansible. However, Ansible actually gathers many facts, and there's lots of stuff you can take action based on. I've written a playbook right here to gather the facts and then write them to a YAML file. You can see we named our play, we're targeting the Red Hat host, we're gathering our facts. We write back to the file using the Ansible built-in copy module. The destination will be the Red Hat-facts file. The content is kind of complicated right now, but don't worry too much about it. This is a Jinja expression that allows us to convert this Ansible dictionary into YAML. We're setting the mode as 644, which is just readable on Linux, that's fine. And this delegate to tells us to write the file to localhost rather than writing it to the remote host. Let's go ahead and run this and see what it does. We'll do Ansible playbook -i inventory ath facts.yaml. And now we have a Red Hat facts.yaml file over here. And you can see there's a ton of stuff that's in here. All kinds of stuff about the devices, all kinds of stuff about the time of day, what's mounted, file systems, platform stuff, DNS, network cards, all kinds of useful information. And this is why sometimes gathering facts can be a very slow process. Sometimes it would be nice to restrict how many of these facts it tries to gather. In fact, we only care about the OS family fact in our neofetch play. Can we tell it to only gather that fact? Well, yes, we can. There's actually a lot of things we can tailor based on gather facts. Now, the way gather facts works is it actually runs a module called the setup module. So if we do Ansible -i inventory ath, and we're going to run the setup module against the Red Hat host, do we get the same information? And yeah, basically we do. It's formatted a bit differently from the console output, but these are all the facts we had in our file. So that's how Ansible is actually gathering the facts. Let's see if we can tailor the setup module to only gather the facts we really want. Let's go back to our facts.yaml and let's change gather facts to false. We need to run the setup module explicitly if we want to pass arguments. So we'll do that over here. Gather facts, and we're going to run the setup module, that's ansible.builtin.setup. If we don't supply any arguments, it'll be the same thing as if we set this to true, but instead we're going to supply the argument gather subset. And the subset we want is, we don't want all the facts, we don't even want the minimum amount of facts, we only want the OS family fact. So let's save that and let's run that playbook one more time. That is a YAML error, my mistake. Let's quote this and quote this. There we go. Try that one more time. Okay, now what do we have over here in Red Hat Facts? Wow, it went from like 800 lines to 11. That's a lot fewer things that we have in here. But here's our OS family. If you want to know the kind of things you can pass to the setup module, you can check the documentation. You can find it online on the Ansible website, or you can actually do it from the command line. If we run ansible doc and do ansible.builtin.setup, it will give you the documentation for every module that it has built in. And here is gather subset. So by default, we get all, but here are all the values you can specify when you want to put something in. And it even talks about specifying not all, not min, if you don't want the minimum subset of facts. So if you only want specific ones, you supply this, and then the particular fact subset you do want. And this can be a lot faster to run than collecting all the facts, especially if you want just one. I switched things around a little bit and moved the fact gathering with the setup module to the NeoFetch playbook, so now it will only get the OS family fact. I think that's a good wrapping up point for today's episode about Ansible facts. I hope that you have enjoyed it. If you did, please hit those like and subscribe buttons. It really helps out the channel. Thanks for watching. Come see us next time.